Our next guest is Mike Milligan, the founder of One Oak Financial, a virtual financial planning firm based in Norfolk, Virginia. He's got offices in 7 states, but he covers all 50. So welcome, Mike.
Tom, it's so good to be here today.
Now, I know a little bit about your background. I mean, we were together in Puerto Rico last year, but the audience doesn't know about you. So tell us about your background.
I have 26 years plus of experience in the financial services world, working with large banks, insurance companies, really navigating financial markets on behalf of my clients. And so, I founded One Oak to be truly one of a kind because we all live unique lives. In being unique individuals, we deserve unique financial plans.
So now you've developed this one-of-a-kind financial plan. How is that different than the average financial planner that's out there?
So the one of a kind financial plan, it's literally something that I wrote the book on. The one of a kind financial planning book lays out a framework for how you should approach everything about your plan. See, Tom, when somebody wants to buy a house, they could easily go and buy the lot, their dream lot, and then go over to the Home Depot. And at the Home Depot, they can walk down every aisle and pick out what they need to build that house. But that's not the way people do it. They go to an architect who then, through computer animation, through talking with builders, they pick out how the kitchen is going to overlook the mountain bluff or highlight the lake they live on. And see, that's what we do is when we're building a financial plan, we actually get the details in place and then we worry about the product selection next. Because just like in building the dream home, at the end of the day, once the plans are in place and the builder selected, they still go to the Home Depot to buy the products.
Now, you've talked about this story, your grandmother and collard sandwiches, to talk about money. How does that differ from normal cookie cutter type approach to financial planning?
So my grandmother is my hero. We grew up in a small town in Laurinburg, North Carolina, and early in my life, when I was 11 years old, her and my grandfather had raised my mom and aunts and uncles, but they got some devastating news. My grandfather, Walter, had was diagnosed with cancer. Well, see, he owned a construction business, and at that point in time, he was the sole breadwinner of the family. He could no longer work and died shortly after that. So my grandmother had to innovate through desperation. She had no other way of providing for herself. And so she took some simple ingredients that she knew. She took the ingredients of collard greens, and then she made a bun out of cornmeal. So it was a cornbread collard sandwich. And she would wrap those up and go to the construction sites where my grandfather worked, and she would sell them. And yes, they were tasty. And yes, she had made this collard sandwich for 30 or 40 years, but through that innovation, she now turned it into a business. The interesting part about my grandmother, she had a third grade education. She couldn't really read. She didn't have a bank account. And she took the 11-year-old version of me along with her to help her sell, to negotiate with vendors, eventually to go on a festival. And I became her sales department or CFO. And that happened all the way till I was 18, where she then said, "You need to go to college because you have a gift for this." Well, she was also at that point in time, ended up in a long-term care facility. And that's after I got out of college. And so I got to see firsthand her journey as an entrepreneur. And now what I've realized in building One Oak Financial was that our clients bring ingredients to us. And as opposed to taking those ingredients, right, and giving them some of just a common plan like you find in many large banks, in many insurance companies, or even like with model portfolios, we take those unique ingredients that clients bring us and their unique hopes and dreams and the fears they have for their life to create a truly one of a kind, unique financial plan, just like my granny did with collard sandwiches.
You know, a lot of people, when they get a financial plan, then they start to analyze, and it's almost like analysis paralysis. You talk about the paralysis penalty, kind of go into that.
So, the biggest risk to people out there is typically not by buying a stock and it going down in value. The biggest penalty you can have is the lack of making decisions. I know you've witnessed this, Tom, and maybe you have experienced this in your life, but you hear somebody present something to you and you say, I will think about it. And then you actually don't end up acting on anything. Well, we know, as Albert Einstein said, one of the greatest forces in nature is compound interest, and the greatest factor of that is time. When you are paralyzed, and Tom, I understand why people get paralyzed. They get paralyzed because they don't understand what an asset under management fee is. They don't understand commissions. They don't understand interest spreads. They don't understand what a mutual fund is or an ETF, and all they hear is one company saying annuities are bad and one company say this is all we want to give. But at the end of the day, they're paralyzed because of all the noise on the outside about the products. See, the real thing that people need to address is that you are unique. And when you lay out the plan you want for your life, then the products naturally find their way to you. So instead of looking for products or the next great investment strategy, map out a plan for your life. And if you map out a plan for your life, then that paralysis penalty that's there will go away because it's easy to make a decision on the products and solutions you need, the tools you need when you know what the plan is.
Now, you've worked with some large banks, large insurance companies. How did that experience help mold your whole thing with One Oak Financial?
Listen, I'm very grateful, right, for the numbers that I was taught in dealing with those, right? I've sat in major conference rooms on Wall Street in sales meetings. I've been in banks where sales quotas were discussed. I've been in insurance companies where they asked, how many products did you sell? In all of those meetings, what I learned is that the answer to those questions was never about the client. It was about the profit of those companies. And when you put profit first, you end up with the same solution for everything. It's like when Ford created his car, he put it on an assembly line, and the same car came out. Well, large companies have followed the mold of the assembly line. Same products, same solutions for the 9 a.m. appointment, the 11 a.m. appointment, the 1 p.m. appointment, and the 3 p.m. appointment, if they even have a 3 p.m. appointment, because many of them go play golf, right? Right? But it's the same solution. They're not there to listen. They're there to get the initial 5 to 10 minutes out of the way so they can then present how they can get you where they want you to go, not bearing the same risk or the fear and anxiety that you have, and definitely not educating first.
Now, you came up with this term retirement deja vu. What is that, and where do you go with that?
So retirement deja vu is what I feel like. If there is a financial planner in America that sees more new clients in a week because of the size of our firm and being virtual than I do, I'd like to meet that person. But like in the first 15 to 20 to 30 minutes of every meeting, I feel like I'm living retirement deja vu. Because deja vu is that sense that I've been here before and I've heard this story before, and I hear that story of what you're sensing in the big banks, large investment houses, and even with doing nothing by just having money in your 401k or thrift savings plan. So deja vu is what I experience, but it's also what people who actually employ financial advisors experience. They're getting the same thing over and over. And what I think is most people are looking for something unique and they want to get out and break free of deja vu. They want to have something that's customized for them. Their life is unique. We're all not going to live the same, but what all of us in this studio have in common is that we are going to die. That's the common thing that we have, but that's all that we have in common. Your retirement is going to be different than mine. Your travel plans are different than mine. Your life and your goals are different than ours. And when you clearly write those out, we can literally break free of deja vu to experience a one-of-a-kind life.
So, Mike, what are the core elements that you believe should be in a one-of-a-kind financial plan?
So, Tom, Not only am I the founder and leader of One Oak Financial, but also teach in a major university at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. And I teach principles and ethics of financial planning. But through the academic research I've done on that job, I've identified 5 key pillars that everybody should have in a one-of-a-kind financial plan. The first is tax planning. Taxes are the biggest expense you will ever have in your life. If you think about it, your federal tax, your state tax, Medicare, Social Security, and then when you retire, IRMA tax. Taxes never go away. And we get so caught up in the industry about haggling over asset under management fees and, pay a quarter of a percent less, or, does this rate that's maybe 1% more, does it factor and help me out? The biggest expense we should be talking about that really moves the needle is taxes. We just had a major tax update that is going to give seniors, people over 65, an additional $12,000 of planning capability, right? The new senior deduction there of $6,000 per individual allows us now to convert 12,000 more of money that will never be taxed again to a Roth conversion that was not there on June 30th of 2025. So taxes are the first pillar of the one-of-a-kind financial planning. The second one is retirement income. See, retirement income allows you to remove fear and anxiety from retirement. Because the thing that one of the things that retirees have told me for years is I don't know where my paychecks are coming from, right? And I know you've heard the same thing. You wrote the book on it, right? But like retirement income is about the income you need and the income you want. That's the bottom line in the one-of-a-kind financial plan. So we're going to help not only guarantee the income you have, and we're going to make sure that it's stable. It comes every month in a timely fashion. That's going to create a paycheck for the rest of your life. Then the third pillar is investment management. We're looking to actively reduce fees while spreading risk across multiple asset classes. See, in the investment world, everything from CDs to Bitcoin, right, has attributes related to a portfolio. Now, it may not be an attribute you need in your portfolio, but it has attributes, and we're going to explore the investment piece. The last 2 components are long-term care planning, because we're all going to experience that in our life, either directly to us or with a loved one. So we do long-term care planning, and we do an assessment called the Health Analysis and Longevity Optimizer that literally says at the end what your life expectancy and your health expectancy is, and what the present cost in today's dollars is for the future care. Can you imagine doing a financial plan that has your life expectancy on it, so within some margin of error what you can actually grow to, what you can use your money for, versus getting a financial plan that says you're going to live till 95, the one size fits all world. So we do long-term care planning. Then finally, legacy. Legacy to me is not about dollars. It's about leaving a well-organized plan in place that says to your family when you're gone, I love you. Because there's nothing like telling your family you're not important to me when they have to scurry through shoe boxes and the junk drawer to find statements, or go and knock on 12 bank stores to find your statements. So the legacy is about creating a plan that's organized, and then finally passing on the family secrets, like my grandmother did with the collard sandwiches, right? So the one-of-a-kind financial plan is tax, retirement income, investment, long-term care, and legacy planning. And when you put it all together, it's there to relieve stress and anxiety so that people can live a one-of-a-kind life.
I think that's so important because the research shows that people with guaranteed income, uh, they're happier. Their retirement portfolio does better. That's what BlackRock found, and they're likely to live longer. So why wouldn't you want that? And then long-term care, both my parents were in memory care, and we had to go through all of that. And so I've got those 2 genes in me too. And so I hope they figure that thing out. But no retirement plan is complete without a plan for long-term care. And finally, in the estate planning, we were just doing our estate plan over the last couple of weeks, and we're doing it to try to make sure the family doesn't get ripped apart. You see all these families get totally ripped apart when there's money involved. My parents died, my sister took care of it, and we are closer now, my 2 sisters and I, than we've ever been. There was no issue, all right? And that's what we want for our families, to have no issues. And you do that by planning, not just by dying and leaving a bunch of stuff.
Well, that's exactly right, Tom, because in the comprehensive nature of the one-of-a-kind financial plan, when you deal with taxes first, the biggest expense, but then you end with legacy, like what's it's going to like when you pass away, it allows you to really start prioritizing the things that are most important. And like you're organizing your estate plan, the things that, I'd encourage you and I encourage everybody to do is don't forget in the legacy piece, to pass on family memories and family stories. Because, not speaking from a spiritual standpoint here, we all really have two deaths on this earth. It's the day we physically die, but it's also the day our name is spoken for the last time. And that period of time between the day you die and the day your last name is spoken on this earth, that really is your legacy. There's a reason we remember George Washington and Jesus Christ and Gandhi and Mother Teresa. It's because of the impact they made, and people want to continue telling their stories. It's up to individual families to tell the stories of their family. For me, it's collard sandwiches, right? It's festivals. It's so my kids' grandkids are still saying the name Elizabeth Calder 100 years from now. And that's what a legacy plan really is. Yes, it's will and trust, but it's more about writing the story of your family because it's important because you are unique. Everybody's unique. There's nobody that's more unique than anybody else, right? And if you're one of a kind, make sure your family knows how one of a kind and how unique you really are, even if it's odd, because oddities are really special when it comes down to it.
Now, we talked about taxes earlier, and the Roth IRA, I moved all of my IRA 401k to Roth. I think it's a great tool. Um, Life insurance has the best tax break in the entire tax code. Do you ever use cash value life insurance?
We do use cash value life insurance. And one of the things that we use cash value life insurance was that I actually learned this from you is to put a wealth floor on somebody's estate, right? So at the end of the day, when you're asking, when we're meeting with clients and we're talking about legacy, we're asking at a minimum, what do you want to leave your family? And if they're healthy and they've got good genes and they'll pass insurance suitability, leveraging dollars to buy life insurance, including, whole life or guaranteed universal life or index universal life, any permanent policies is going to put that wealth floor. And there's a great story that I've heard you share about a cattle farmer, right? Who an agent. I think you were with this.
Story of the cash cows, yeah.
Yeah, the cash cows, where he was going to end up losing his farm at death
Or
because
half of the farm, yeah.
yeah, because he didn't have liquidity. And so I think you brought, or the agent brought, 4 plastic cows there and said, and to give him an illustrated point, say, when you die, half of these are going away. And you said, but if we take some of the milk of each of these cows, right, we can make sure that the farm stays intact. What did the farmer say in that
He
story?
said, well, every rancher knows it's better to give up a little milk than to butcher 2 good cows.
Yeah, and that's the same way, right? It doesn't matter if you're a farmer or a pharmacist, or if you've built a company as an entrepreneur, or if you've worked your life for somebody else for 45 years. If you can give up a little bit of the interest on your assets to pay for a tax-free benefit that puts a floor, it frees you up to spend everything else, which that is what takes the fear and anxiety.
Yeah, see, too many people want to leave money to their kids. I say, you're not supposed to leave them any money. You're supposed to spend all your money, leave them life insurance. And as a real world example of the leverage, we bought a $1 million second to die life insurance policy to go to the kids. We named the kids as the 4 beneficiaries. It cost us $150,000. 15 cents on the dollar to leave $1 million, but who gets to spend the other 850,000? We do. So don't leave your kids $1 million. Take some money out and buy life insurance. You can leave them 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 million.
Right. And in survivorship policies, second to die policies are some of the most underutilized vehicles, tools that are out there. When we were talking about building a house, a custom house, right? We say you can go to Home Depot and go down all the aisles you want to. In the world of financial planning, second to die insurance is back in the back of the building on one little shelf and nobody ever gets there. But it is one of the most powerful tools that can be used in creating this new phrase, generational wealth, right, for the next generation. And then allows you to spend, because I guarantee you, 99% of clients I speak with, when they really ask their kids, do you want the inheritance or do you want us to spend the money? The kids always say, we want you to spend the money. Well, guess what? You can do both.
Right.
You could spend the money, but you could also give them something at the same time.
Tax-free.
Tax-free, right? And that's the problem that many Americans are facing right now, is they've realized for 40 plus years, they've been funneling pre-tax dollars into 401ks and IRAs. And now here they are at 70, 73. And they're like, wait a minute, they're going to force me to take this out. See, a 401k was never intended to be an asset. It was intended to generate retirement income. And whether or not you plan your retirement income or let the IRS do it for you through required minimum distributions, it's an inefficient wealth transfer tool, very inefficient. And so that's why we like to use wealth transfer tools, life insurance for that, tax-free. We also like to do Roth conversions because then that becomes eligible in a very efficient way as a wealth transfer strategy. But well, we all do that in the confines of talking about tax planning first in the one of a kind financial plan. Because if you don't deal with taxes now, you're only going to end up paying more in the future.
Now, there are a lot of myths and misconceptions around retirement and, you know, all the advice from people on TV and everything. What are some of those myths and misconceptions, and how do you break through?
So, I call those myths also the rules of Wall Street, the rules of the financial planning world, the rules of advisors. And you talk about these. I mean, talking about the master of those rules and breaking free from that's you, Tom. But like the 4% safe withdrawal rule, created on a study, right, by a very smart guy, has been adopted as common practice in the marketplace when he really never wanted to be common, right? We've got modern portfolio theory that really is about diversifying risk, but really at the expense of who? Right? It's really for the profit of companies, right? So their assets under management fees don't widely fluctuate, right? And then you've got so many other financial planning rules, right? The myth, right? The thing that gets me in our industry is that if you have a Burger King and a McDonald's right next door to each other, you know what you get when you're walking in. Yeah, at McDonald's, you're gonna get 2 all beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun. At Burger King, you're gonna get a flame broiled sandwich. The interesting part about that is they don't really compete against each other. They're trying to perfect their process, right? Uh, in the financial planning space, if you walk in and you talk to 50 different advisors, you're getting not only 50 different solutions, but they're gonna tell you that the other 49 are wrong. Right? And one of the things that we're trying to break free is that as opposed to telling somebody they're wrong, we're going to put the myths to the side. We're going to put the rules to the side, and we're going to operate within those, right? Because we're negotiating with big banks and investment companies and insurance companies in the financial markets to benefit our clients. But in that negotiation, it's negotiation for the client. We are literally on the same side of them. Now, we are not a nonprofit. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that we don't have a very profitable business, but we're going to tell you as true fiduciaries what our profits are on you. And then we're going to do some myth busting. We're going to break some rules, and we're going to make it all about our clients because our clients are genuinely unique, and we want to build the one of a kind financial plan for their one of a kind life.
Now, you talk about how wealth and health are connected. And what's interesting is my latest book, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It started out, I was doing a presentation on financial wellness. And when I was researching, I was shocked at how financial wellness is tied directly to physical wellness, emotional wellness, mental wellness, spiritual wellness. It's crazy. They're all tied together. And I tell people, you see this, like you drive by one house, their yard is immaculate. You go in there, everything's spick and span. You say, hey, I need your tax return from 2021. I have it right here in the file. Then you go to 2 doors down, the yard is a mess. The house looks even worse, looks like a hurricane went through it, and they couldn't find a tax return from this last year. And because they're tied together.
Right.
And I think you found some of that same stuff.
So what's interesting is like there's a lot of wealthy people who would trade all of their wealth for their health. Like if you asked a billionaire, you know, would you give it all away for 30 years more of life? Every single one of them would say yes. Because the interesting part about a billionaire is they have the secret sauce to go recreate $1 billion.
Right.
Right? The thing that's infinite or that is definitely finite is time. We're all going to die. And so the health part of our journey with wealth is we have to focus on maintaining our health as much as possible. If you're not walking the necessary steps, we can debate whether it's 7 or 10 or 12 or whatever, right? If you're not walking, if you're not active, if you're not going to see your doctor, right? You are in essence giving away time. And then you're going to give away some health at the end of it, or some wealth at the end of it, because you could end up in a long-term care facility or needing somebody to watch after you. So health is vital in a plan that evolves around you.
I've heard people say rich people have money, wealthy people have money, have health, have a purpose. It's more than just money to be wealthy.
That's right. And so one of the interesting parts about that is like we see that in our firm, and just like we've released the one of a kind financial plan, we've the phrase I've coined, retirement deja vu, is also a book. But we're also releasing a book that we are so close to being done with now, called Retirement Chi. If you study chi is inner peace, and we could go into a lot of Far East details about what chi really is, but it's about peace. But one of the most stressful things that happens in people's life, both mental and could cause physical health, is this transition from a job to not having a job. It's the it's like it could be as big as the Grand Canyon for some people, right? I'm working on one side and I'm retired on the other, and they don't know what they're going to do with their life. So we've created a book in a pamphlet to create a vision for retirement, and we call it Retirement Chi. It's bringing the inner peace to someone's retirement. Creates a framework. The C in Chi stands for community. What is your community going to be? Is it going to be going to church and doing a Bible study? Is it going to be spending more time with grandkids so your kids don't have to pay for childcare? Is it going to be a group of explorers who travel South America and Antarctica and Australia? So what is that community going to be? But the second part of that is your health. Because if you don't focus on your health, it will become your focus. And so the health element of this is so critical in retirement. And then the last piece of the retirement I is impact. If you just because you're retired doesn't mean you're dead. And most people now could live a third or more of their life in retirement, the way life expectancies are drawing out, the way medical advances. So there's still time to have an impact, whether that's as my client Sarah wants to do. She just retired. She wants to create a mentorship program at an all-girls school that she went to. I have Diane, who her impact is helping raise her two grandkids so that her kids don't have to pay $2,200 a month in childcare. Now, listen, the benefit of that is two-pronged. It's money saving, but it's also the time and the development with her grandkids. I have others who have, in Puerto Rico, have started a nonprofit called PR I Love You. There's another retiree down there starting a new foundation called PR Eye Care, because they want to bring eye assistance down to help people see better because of the damage of the sun. People can make an impact in retirement, but it's only by creating a vision. And that revision we call is retirement chi. It brings you peace and it brings you comfort, knowing that not only is your money taken care of, but you have a written purpose for life beyond sitting in a recliner.
Mike, one of the things I like about you is that you're creating an entire operation. You're hiring people and young people. So just give me a little bit of, how are you building that business? Because you've been building pretty quickly.
So my wife, Liana, and I were at an industry event that, we go to industry events all the time, but this was an award industry event that was recognizing, top professionals. And I was there as one of the top 10 people being recognized. But at that event, she kind of reached under the banquet table and squeezed my leg, and not in a good way. Squeezed my leg and said, "We're gonna talk when we get back to our room." And we got back to the room, and she said something very profound to me. She said, "Mike, where are the women in this industry?" And I said, "In my eyes, that room was filled half and half between men and women, but everybody being recognized was a man." And see, my wife is a realtor, a very successful realtor. And in the real estate world, right, some of the most successful realtors are women, right? They're out there doing amazing things and helping people live the American dream of buying their home. Well, she told me that at that event, she said, "Mike, you're going to fix this problem. And you're going to fix it so that people who are inheriting money, people, beneficiaries that are going to care for their aging parents, they could see themselves in the people they work with. And so, yes, we are creating One Oak Financial as a woman-led firm. So the three executive managers I have in my firm now are all talented women. One came from the federal court system as a law clerk. One came from helping C-suite executives. The other came straight out of the startup business. And they're heading up our sales team, our operations, and our client management team. And we have an aspiration goal at One Oak Financial to have someone in every state in America. Because, if we're really going to be one of a kind, we need a one of a kind person that knows Montana and knows Arizona and knows Iowa and knows Florida. And we want to be in every state. Now, we do our work virtually, but it doesn't mean that we can't impact and invest in the communities we live in and bring new, fresh ideas into this industry. It's one of the things that I don't view myself as like a tycoon of like the 1900s, like J.P. Morgan and Vanderbilt, those. But one of the things I do is I want to radically change this industry. And one of the things is this industry has progressively gotten older as our clients have gotten older. And what I want to do is open up opportunities for young people, right? So for the next generation to be in the retirement income and financial planning space, and for them to be able to make an impact on their generation, like I've been able to do in mine and my predecessors have been able to do in theirs.
Mike, I know our audience. Um, there's somebody out there saying, "Man, I want to talk to them about my retirement plan, or I'm interested in getting into the business." How can they get a hold of you?
So there's two ways. You could just go to mikemilligan.com. That's a direct link to me. But for our firm, One Oak Financial, you can go to oneoakfinancial.com. That's the number one, not spelled out, but the number one, oakfinancial.com. What I would tell everybody who's thinking about that is if you're looking for something standard and procedural, you're not going to get it with us. We are here to help you identify your uniqueness. And through that uniqueness, we're gonna use the tools that Wall Street, the major banks, and insurance companies have, and we're gonna leverage them on your behalf to create a one-of-a-kind financial plan.
Mike, I want to thank you for sharing your knowledge with the audience, and I want to thank every one of you for watching another episode of Financial Freedom with Tom Hegna.